How do we deal with haters? That's what I want to get at in this week's spiritual exercise. How do we push through criticism when we feel called to a certain mission? How do we have the courage to persevere? One of the things that we all have to deal with is that negative pushback. When we're doing good stuff, when we're doing work that people find interesting, or we're doing stuff that may grab a little attention, we all have to deal with haters, as they say. And that just doesn't just apply for public people who do public speaking or do video work like this, whatever it might be. It really does apply for everybody. When we're putting our work out there, when we're seeking to help people out, or whatever it might be, at times we're going to deal with negative pushback. We're going to deal with negative criticism, and we have to balance it. So it may seem paradoxical, right? A few weeks ago at Pentecost, I talked about the need for group decision making. How when we isolate ourselves, that's when we really get into trouble. But on the same hand, so that group dynamic is important. Listening to other people, incredibly important. But then sometimes we have to have the courage and strength to just push through criticism. Say, I discerned this, I prayed about it, I discussed it with some folks, and now even though there's some criticism, I gotta be willing to push through it. I gotta be willing to say, you know what, I just gotta suck this up and go with my gut, go with what I feel called to do. That's precisely what our Lord Jesus Christ gets at in this week's gospel reading. He talks about, addresses specifically fear. He says, don't be afraid of those who can harm the body. So of course, the scriptures tend to go to the most extreme example, which is this idea of persecution. So he's telling his apostles, don't be afraid of those who can kill you through persecution, but be afraid of being condemned to hell. Be afraid of not doing God's will. That's the more important thing, is that we have to be courageous enough to accept the consequences of doing God's will day by day. So there is this sense that when we're making decisions, at times we have to be willing to deal with negative feedback. And what I would say for me is always important is that I examine myself when I arise in the morning. I feel, what am I called to do today? What are the things that I'm called to accomplish? And at the end of the day, I try to examine myself under the light of the 10 Commandments, under the light of the 7 deadly sins, and other texts from the scriptures. And I try to say, I have a clear conscience. I did what I felt I was called to do, and I did my best today. And yeah, sometimes people are going to criticize you. But in the end, we have to recognize each of our own discernment, we have to take ownership for it. So what I want us to do is precisely that today in this week's spiritual exercise. So we talked about group decision making before, but now I want you to kind of imagine that you have the courage to push through criticism, to endure it patiently, gently, without getting angry, without getting frustrated, without having dramatic fear. That willingness to push through for the sake of Jesus Christ, for the sake of that relationship. Amen.